Hi, today's topic is how to plot and value any IP asset. But first, let's dispel some widely held concepts that prevent most from understanding primary knowledge or macro knowledge that releases revelation. Most people, when faced with a problem, simply go off to their advisors and confront them with the problem and will take their advice even if it is wrong. So let's consider the following. On your screen, we have to decide which business is more valuable. Both have the same turnover, both have the same net profit with only one difference. And I have no doubt that most would favour business A because they see it as less risky. But the underlying truth is they have the same value in economic terms. Value is found in sales, not age. I recommend you value sales by finding the rate in the dollar that markets prove or will accept. Net profits are a supporter of value, not a predictor of value. You will never receive someone else's net profit because you will manage the business differently. Next, we will use the same scenario but change the years. So now, which one is more valuable? Most advisors, not wishing to give up on their long-held perceptions, will still advise to take the older business. Even now, most cannot see that the value is in the sales, not in age. They keep looking at ancillary concepts or micro issues rather than primary concepts, which are macro issues. If you can grasp this concept of what comes first, you will be well on your way to changing your focus to primary matters, which are macro, then on contributory matters, which are micro. The macro knowledge that should be evident is that anyone who can create that level of turnover in 1 to 3 years is exceptional, whereas the other business may be only 1 day away from failing. But most dispense advice about micro concepts and, although true, mislead. Macro looks at the things that matter, whereas micro looks at the things that don't matter, which is why you should only take advice from macro thinkers. Let's consider the next scenario to comprehend how value is determined and variance in people or management affect value. So on your screen, which business is worth more? Answer, business A. Why? Because value is found in sales. But what changes value or rate in the dollar? This is a management issue which takes us to the next step. No two people will ever run a business the same. If business A is worth 50 cents in the dollar, how much is business B worth? Clearly, it has to be less than business A. Careful, before you go too low, you must consider, is it bad management, discounting to make sales, being ripped off by suppliers, or poor credit or fraud to beat taxation issues? In other words, buying more product to use elsewhere. Remember, the hardest thing to create in this world is turnover, but once created, it has value. The owners of business A would like to buy business B because it would double their turnover, and they could buy the intangible asset at a lower price. To protect your business, you must protect sales, and then you must protect margins. To value IP assets, the principles are still the same. They are valued on sales created in the markets. If IP assets are either standalone or ancillary. Standalone IP assets earn or generate income regardless of management and other assets. An example of this is software or an app. They sell on subscription or license, and they are not dependent on other inputs, or they are based on royalty payments, based on some invention. But we will leave these for the moment. They are easy to value. Ancillary IP assets are those that are dependent on other inputs to determine outcomes. I will show you this type first, which is the hardest to work out. Standalone IP assets are easy. So let's consider an IP asset that is in ancillary, and let's assume that it is a building concept and it is based on a licensing agreement. You choose 10 agents and employ them to sell your product. The IP asset is the same, but the people are different. How many think that they will all sell the same number of products in the same year? There is none and Buckley's, and this is how you should approach the valuation of IP assets. The only way to value intangible assets is to know where the revenue streams come from, the margins they make, and who they belong to. You simply cannot create a number to represent an inflated net profit and multiply it by some dreamt up number that has absolutely nothing to do with markets. Let's consider the graph on your screen, shown on your screen. Let's assume the turnover of this business is worth 50 cents in the dollar. The green line shows the overall intangible asset that we have called goodwill value line. And all we have to do is find the percentage the IP asset contributes to sales. We are charged with the valuation of the building IP asset, and we investigate the market, and we find a multiplier of, say, 50 cents in the dollar, as I've stated, and we estimate that the building system or IP asset contributes 10% to the overall value. We can now value the IP asset at any time based on the most provable figure, which is actual sales. If the overall goodwill is 50 cents in the dollar, or at its peak turnover is namely 400,000 K, then the value of the IP asset at that time will be 40,000 K. However, markets move all the time, as we have shown on the graph. So what happens to the values if margins decrease? So does the value of the IP asset. It goes from 10% of 400K to 10% of 220K. It was 5 cents in every dollar. It is now 2.2 cents in every dollar. But this is based on real or actual results of market movements. To value any revenue stream, please consider the tree diagram on your screen. Very few ever get to the top of the tree, and the only way to do so is focus on passive or recurring income or cash flows. 80% of businesses will never get above the 50% gross profit margin, and these businesses are considered wheelbarrow businesses, and cash flows stop if you stop pushing. Net profits are a resultant number, and they are based on micro thinking, not a primary number which is based on macro thinking. Without turnover or sales, you will never have net profits. So we are left to wonder why most put the cart before the horse. That concludes today's presentation. I hope you get your copy of my book soon. Thanks for watching.